to revenge with Lyra.
They don't need you there anyway, Dad texted, followed by a thumbs-up emoji. I stared at it. It was the day of my son's birthday. I'd spent the last 3 weeks organizing everything, decorations, his favorite carrot cake, and a little scavenger hunt he'd been dreaming of. I didn't ask for much. Just that my parents, his grandparents, show up. But Dad said money's tight. I believed him. I cut the extra pizza, skipped balloons, told my son, it's okay, they love you. They'll come next time. But the next morning, as I scrolled Facebook out of habit, my thumb froze. There they were, my parents, grinning ear to ear in a photo taken yesterday. Mountains of wrapped gifts spilled across the floor. Gold foil balloons read happy birthday. My sister's 2 sons were tearing into toys like Christmas came early. And the caption? Nothing makes us happier than spoiling the grandkids who truly deserve it. My breath caught in my throat. That afternoon, while my son drew dinosaurs alone, he looked up at me with those soft eyes and asked quietly, Mom, don't they need me too? That was the moment something inside me cracked clean down the middle. My name is Kendra Ellison, I'm 34. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. How do you mourn love that's still alive but only one-sided? That night, I poured myself a glass of red wine, pulled up the banking app, and stared at the numbers. Every single mortgage payment I'd been sending for the past 4 years, every little auto payment, birthday cash, winter coat fund, back-to-school bonus.
Gone.
With one tap, I started the reversal. By 7 a.m., there was banging on my front door. I opened it and saw my father, face red, hands trembling. Sweetheart, we need to talk. Please. I just smiled. My father didn't knock again. He just stood there, fists clenched at his sides, lips pressed into a line, like holding back a lecture he used to give when I got a B+ instead of an A. I saw what you did, he muttered. I didn't flinch. You mean what I undid? He stepped forward, eyes wild. Kendra, the mortgage, your mother's health, the taxes, we relied on that. I leaned on the doorframe.
Calm.
Measured. Quietly furious. You relied on me, I said. But apparently, I'm not part of this family, remember?
He scoffed.
It was one missed birthday. It was his birthday, I snapped. My son, your grandson, who sat in a room full of balloons meant for someone else. Silence. Then the flicker. Not of guilt. Of calculation.
Fine, he said.
We messed up. But it doesn't justify sabotaging your family. I folded my arms. I didn't sabotage anything. I just stopped pretending I owed you everything. That's when his voice rose. You don't get it. Your sister's husband is between jobs. They needed that celebration. You've always been self-sufficient. Oh, I laughed bitterly. So my punishment for being self-sufficient is to carry everyone else's weight forever? The sun cut across his face. He looked older than I remembered, but not fragile. Entitled. I'll be back, he muttered. I won't, I said, and closed the door. Inside, I sank into the couch. My son peeked from behind the hallway wall. Mom, was that Grandpa? I nodded. He hesitated. Is he mad? I looked him in the eye. Maybe, but I'm not afraid anymore. That night, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Missed calls.
Group chats.
Even my mom's passive-aggressive emoji parade. But I stayed silent until one call came through. Not from them. From the bank. Ma'am, we have a situation with your cosigner. There's been an attempt to override the mortgage account you just reversed. I blinked. The cosigner tried to override it? I repeated. The banker on the line sounded cautious. Yes, ma'am. Someone attempted to reestablish the auto payments using your name. But since you locked the account with a new authorization code, we flagged it. I smiled. Not out of joy, but out of bitter recognition. That someone, I said, was my father. Would you like to report this as fraudulent activity? I hesitated. No, I said finally. Just make a note and block any further access. Only I authorize changes from now on. When I hung up, the silence stretched. Not empty, powerful. I stood and walked to the mirror. For years, I had rehearsed gratitude in that reflection, practiced my role, the good daughter, the quiet backbone, the one who gave and gave and gave.
But now?
I saw a woman who finally stopped asking for a seat at a table where the invitation was forged with guilt. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from my sister. Can't believe you're ruining everything over one petty birthday. Ezra's tuition is due. What do you expect us to do? I typed, then deleted. Typed again. Then finally responded. Ask the people you actually celebrated. And I hit send. The next hour was a blur. My mom left a voicemail sniffling about stress-induced chest pain. My uncle emailed me a lecture about family duty. Even my cousin sent a voice note saying I was hurting everyone. But not one of them said the words, "We're sorry." Not one of them asked about my son. At bedtime, I tucked him in. He looked up, voice small. Will they come next year? I held his hand. No, baby. But maybe that's a good thing. Because from now on, we weren't begging to be loved. We were choosing who got to stay. The next morning, my doorbell rang. I peeked through the curtain. It was my father, still in his suit from the night before, hair disheveled, eyes heavy like he hadn't slept. In his hand, a white bakery box. From the same overpriced cake shop I'd ordered from weeks ago. I opened the door, but didn't move aside. He cleared his throat, then gestured toward the box. It's chocolate mousse, he said. His favorite, right? I didn't answer. He looked past me, like searching for my son. We messed up, he muttered. Didn't realize how serious you were. I raised an eyebrow. Serious about what? Respect? Or being treated like I matter? He flinched like I'd slapped him. I brought the car seat back too, he added quietly. You left it at the park. That made my chest tighten. Not because of kindness, but because he remembered. The small, overlooked detail no one else would have noticed. Still, I didn't budge. I'm not here to guilt you, he said, voice cracking. Just to say,
I'm sorry.
And your mother is too. I almost believed him. But then his phone buzzed, and when he glanced down, I caught a glimpse of the screen. She's not folding. Say whatever you have to. My blood turned to ice. I stepped back and said softly, Tell Mom thanks for the message. He paled. Wait. But I'd already closed the door. Inside, my son sat quietly at the kitchen table, drawing pictures with a focus that broke my heart. I looked at him, at the innocence they'd taken for granted, and I realized this wasn't about birthdays anymore. This was about never letting anyone teach him that love had to be earned with obedience. Not on my watch. That night, the doorbell rang again. I didn't answer right away. I watched through the peephole. This time it was my sister. She stood there in a velvet coat, her makeup smeared, holding a bottle of champagne like it would solve everything. When I finally opened the door, she didn't smile. Okay, she said flatly. We get it. You're mad. Just, can you stop punishing everyone now? I leaned against the frame. Punishment? You mean pulling back from a family that never shows up unless they need something? Her eyes flicked toward the apartment behind me. Is that the same couch we helped you pick? I smiled. You mean the one I bought with my own money while you were in Greece? She blinked. Then her tone changed like a switch flipped. You really think you're better than us now, huh? She snapped. Because you're the self-made one? I didn't answer. She kept going. Mom and Dad were just trying to keep the family balanced. You always wanted to be the outsider. You isolate yourself, then act surprised when we don't show up. I stayed quiet. She stared, waiting for a reaction. I simply asked, How's the mortgage going? She shifted uncomfortably. You know, I continued, that $600 a month I covered for nearly a year? It's not my responsibility anymore. Silence. And your promotion party next week? I canceled the venue. It was on my card. Her mouth fell open. You didn't. I did. She stepped back, stunned. I added, For years, I kept paying so you'd love me. But I finally realized I don't need to be loved by people who only notice me when their bills are due. Then I closed the door. And for the first time in years, it felt like a home. not a waiting room for validation. The next day, I expected silence. But instead, my father showed up. Not with anger. Not even with words. He stood there holding a grocery bag, like he was some kind of peacemaker. Inside it, a box of tea, a half-wilted bouquet, and a card that said, "Still family." I didn't invite him in. He shifted awkwardly on the welcome mat, glancing around like a man unfamiliar with the world outside his own rules. "I didn't know what your sister did," he said. "She shouldn't have said those things." I said nothing. He went on. "Your mom, she's just worried about the family falling apart." I raised an eyebrow.
So am I.
That's why I started building a new one, with people who don't see me as a debit card with legs. He flinched. Then came the real reason. "Listen," he muttered. "Your sister, she's in trouble. Her husband left. And the mortgage, well, they can't cover it." I almost smiled, but I didn't. Instead, I asked, "And now you want what? My forgiveness or my money?" He hesitated. "Both, maybe." I crossed my arms. "You raised me to believe that love was earned by what I gave. I gave money."
Time.
Silence. "You said I was strong, but that just meant you felt entitled to take more." He looked away. "You never noticed when I cried, or when I succeeded. You only noticed when the check cleared." Still, he said nothing. So I stepped back into the apartment and gently closed the door. The lock clicked. Behind it, I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. Outside, I heard him let out a long breath. Then footsteps retreating. And for once, I didn't chase. Not for approval. Not for closure. Only for peace. That evening, my phone buzzed again. It was my sister. No emojis. No fake cheer. Just, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. She sent another. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Still, I said nothing. Then came the final message. "I'm outside." I peeked through the blinds. There she was, standing on the curb, arms folded, mascara smudged, trying to look brave. I opened the door halfway. She didn't wait for an invite. "I didn't know Dad was going to ask you like that," she started. I told him not to. "But the baby." I cut her off. "You called my son forgettable. Do you remember that?" She blinked. "And you didn't show up to my graduation, but you flew to Bali the next day. Paid with what?" Her silence answered for her. I leaned against the doorframe. "You always knew I'd cover the mess. The bills, the tears, the broken promises. I was the safety net." Her voice cracked. "I didn't mean to make you feel used." I tilted my head. "You didn't make me feel that way. You just used me." She started to cry, softly, like someone rehearsed in guilt but unfamiliar with consequences. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. But I wasn't hers to lose anymore. I stepped aside just enough for her to glimpse the living room behind me.
Calm. Clean.
Quiet. A space that finally reflected the life I was building. Without them. Then I said, "I hope your daughter never has to prove her worth to be loved." And I closed the door. Not out of spite, but mercy. Because healing sometimes means protecting yourself from the people who claim to love you most. A week later, I received a letter. Not an email. Not a message. A real envelope, with shaky handwriting that I recognized instantly, my father's. Inside was a single sheet. "We made mistakes. Too many. I don't know if an apology is enough, but if I don't say it now, I never will. Your mother and I failed you. And we failed him, your son. I won't ask for forgiveness. But I'm proud of the woman you've become. You deserved more. If you ever open the door again, know I'll be waiting on the other side. This time, not to take, but to listen." I read it twice. Then I tucked it into a drawer. Not out of anger, but because healing doesn't always need witnesses. I made tea. My son sat beside me, building Lego towers in the quiet glow of afternoon sun. "Mom," he asked, "are we okay now?" I looked at him, his eyes full of trust, of hope. "We're better than okay," I whispered. "We're finally home." There was no loud revenge. No fireworks. Just the silence of peace. The power of choosing who gets to sit at your table. And the freedom of knowing you no longer owe anyone the pieces they broke. My family built a home with conditions. I built mine with boundaries. They taught me silence. I turned it into clarity. And when they knocked again, I didn't answer. Not out of pride, but because the door they slammed shut behind me years ago, I no longer needed it open. I built my own, one brick at a time.
For me,